All right, so we're heading back on down into our feature match area here. We've got Holy Diva versus Small. Holy Diva, another wonderful Magic content creator playing in our Hoaglandia Open today. They are playing, I believe, Blue and Red Kiln Fiend, which is a deck that they've streamed with and tweeted
Yep.
about a good bit.
Yep.
And we have Small here actually playing one of my personal favorite decks. Looks like some Yarok Field, some Sultai Ram.
Are they playing? Oh, we have companions, Jeff.
Companions are still legal, and both,
We have
not one, but
companions.
both players are playing them. Yep.
We have companions. Yeah.
Close, tough hand here on Diva side. This is a 6 for Diva. And if this land was untapped, you might snap it off, but. And I'm going to go ahead and keep here. All right, see how this plays out. Hand for our ramp player, also not particularly amazing. Mana is a little bit awkward in the Sultai deck. Interesting to see Small lead on the Temple as opposed to the Fabled Passage for a green source here.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I probably would have let Unfabled Pass and just go for it, but yeah, I definitely
Yep.
would.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that would have been my instinct as well. If you lead on, if they would have led on the Fabled Passage, they would have guaranteed played the Arboreal Grazer this turn,
Yeah.
and now they're not really going to have a good opportunity to do that. You see Diva kind of spinning their tires a little bit, trying to find another land for Kiln Fiend.
All right, that's a hit.
I like the shock in here. You can hold Spell Pierce up as well as Unsummon / Shivan Fire. Like, deck lists are heads up in this tournament, so Diva knows that they're playing against a Risen Reef deck and could potentially want to shock that next turn.
Yep. Yeah, her deck's pretty cool. It's got Dreadhorde Arcanist. It's a sweet one. Looks good.
Okay, now we got a couple different decisions on Small's side of the table.
Oh, really? Have you read Uro before?
Yeah, we saw the shock, right? So, okay, we're leading on a Boreal Grazer is really interesting. I maybe would have led on Uro, I think, but that works too. Either way, I think not playing the Risen Reef is correct because of the shock from Diva representing a removal spell.
Right. Is it Kiln Fiend time?
And this is that point, right, where you're like, okay, the lists are heads up. If you're Diva, you know Small only has like a few pieces of removal main. You're just like hoping to fade this Maelstrom Pulse for a turn, and unfortunately for Diva, the Maelstrom Pulse is there.
Yeah. Yeah, not great.
Yeah, I think if you're Small, you just got to snap this off here. The Kiln Fiend is gonna respect the Kiln Fiend.
Holy Diva and Kiln Fiend. Name a more iconic duo.
Yeah, so I
I
saw
don't, I
Diva.
don't like.
I saw Diva tweet hoping that Thing in the Ice comes in Pioneer Masters at the end of the year.
That would be sweet.
Yeah,
That would be.
I'd like to work on Thing Pyromancer decks. Young Pyromancer
Yes.
card that was added via Jumpstart.
Peels off a disfigure. That's pretty nice for the next creature. Tough. Yeah, Diva Sand definitely did not cooperate, and
Yeah.
Small starting to get off the ground now after having a little bit of land problems.
Yep, and we see Yarok's going to get to come down next turn. It's going to get tempoed by Unsummon a little bit. And perhaps like we could see something like Risen Reef before Yarok to worry about Unsummon, but Risen Reef also not great against the Shivan Fire that was represented earlier.
Jeez. Another Uro, that's tough. The good
No,
thing for Diva though is her deck like takes chunks out of people. It's not like a small. It can really chunk you out.
correct. Diva is not playing like a nickel and dime small edges aggro deck, so like the fact that Small is gaining life here isn't really a big deal. The fact they're advancing their board is though.
Yes, totally agree. Diva just still looking for some creatures. And that one's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, we got Dorat, the perfect pet here, and we've got a Spell Pierce as well as Infuriate. So Infuriate, for those not familiar, not quite red giant growth, but close.
Yeah, she could get paid off here if the opponent goes for a disfigure.
And we see both players being very appropriately patient here. So Diva both not being aggressive with the Infuriate and Small not being aggressive with the Disfigure. And I like this play from both sides.
Boy, yeah, that Cavalier Thorns is a beating. Tough one.
Yeah, Cavalier Thorns notably having reach as a little bow and arrow there would imply, because remember, unless you're a white god card, you get reach if you have a bow and arrow in Magic.
That's right.
These Grazers also having reach here, being quite annoying for this poor Dorat.
It's a lot to plow through. You know, Dorak is going to be able to pump through this thing eventually, which is nice. This is a tight game.
We can see Diva pull that Spell Pierce to the front of the hand there, kind of like, okay, do you have the Disfigure? If so, this is an easy choice for me.
Yeah, she was definitely ready.
So I'm kind of expecting to see another spell happen here to make to kind of punch through this Grazer, because you need to get through those so that you can eventually kill them.
Yeah.
I'm just going to damage. Okay, yeah, it's a tough squeeze, because like Diva also doesn't have any spells that are like very good to be casting in this moment. Whew. Second Disfigure.
Yeah, that's rough.
Ooh, maybe a little bit of a mistapping here. Not looking at the auto tapper. I believe our Salte player's tapping two off a black, double black here.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks like they tapped two black sources. Not leaving up double Disfigure here is probably a pretty big miss.
No, don't worry. Auro's going to draw black source. So
Auro's going to draw black source. Yeah, probably.
Everything's fine.
Matthew, how did you know? This is the time shifted feature. You couldn't have cheated.
Shuffler's rig, man.
Wicked Games. Thank you for the 22 months. I appreciate it. Welcome back.
Gosh. Stupid shuffler.
It's biased against Uro decks, Matthew. Or biased for Uro decks.
Yeah.
In favor of Uro. Now, I'm going to double check Diva's list, but I don't think there are any cards in this format that really let the blue-red deck slip past blockers. Like, there aren't any unblockable spells, right?
There's nothing in her deck. No, I was just checking that out too. Like Slip Through Space or whatever, any of those cards.
Yeah.
There are not. What was the one Aqueous form? Did that make it unblockable from Theros? Remember that card?
I don't recall. I didn't play Limited.
Aqueous form was a playable card in that format, sir.
Okay, yeah, whatever you need to tell yourself.
Aqueous form, there you go. Can't be blocked. Look at that.
Yeah, we can see here. Really feels like the better late game deck is the ramp deck, as is usually the case in Magic. So we see Diva say, "Okay, we're in garbage time. We're gonna go ahead and pack it up and pack it in here."
She had like an unfortunate, like where she couldn't hit the second land. I think until turn 3, maybe turn 4. Maybe get a better shot at it the next game here.
Now, on the Yarok field side, I've played this deck a lot, so I can speak to that one very easily. I expect to see a bunch of our removal spells come in here. Basically just looking to be more of an interactive one-for-one control deck and try and keep Diva's threats off the table. And actually, on the Kiln Fiend side of the table, it looks like Diva is acknowledging that that's what's going to happen, and they're bringing in more threats to kind of increase their density.
Yeah, I'm just like taking a peek. She has a bunch of 1-ofs in her deck too, which is interesting. Would you bring like Alpine Moon in here against this deck?
I don't.
It's weird, right?
It's a 1-of. It's probably fine. Like, yeah. I kind of feel like by the time the Field of the Dead things are happening, you're probably losing anyways, and they're just like an eventuality. But I haven't played the matchup from Diva's side enough to know if that's the case.
Yeah. Kazmina's transmutation is kind of hilarious. If you want to nerf like a Cavalier or something like that.
Oh, that technically gets rid of the death triggers, right?
Yeah. They also lose reach, also, right? They just
loses all abilities and becomes base power and toughness 1/1. Yeah, that's a sweet one for Cavalier Thorns, especially. Big agree.
Yeah, I think so.
Good piece of technology there out of the blue-red deck.
Yeah. Disdainful Stroke's nice. She has tools, that's for sure.
Yeah, Stroke is a fantastic card in this matchup. Big tempo swing there.
So she's bringing in Mystical Disputes as well.
Yeah, I like the counter magic from Diva's side of the table. The ramp deck has a lot of more expensive spells. Anytime you get to trade 2 to 3 mana for like a 5-drop, you tend to be in a pretty good spot.
Cool. Looks like they're all set.
So on the play here for the blue-red deck, pretty good hand, as multiple threats here, at least for Diva, and reasonable hand on the Sultai player side as well. Worth noting that Heartless Act is a little bit awkward against Dorat gaining 1/1 counters.
Yes, definitely true.
Expect to see Heartless Act get played pretty proactively here if Small's playing well. So if I was Small, I would be Heartless Acting this on my turn before Diva gets a chance to untap with stuff.
You know, the good thing for her though, she has 2 more backup threats with Dorat, and Enigma Drake will get there eventually.
Yep. Yeah, good, genuinely good starts from both players here, with plenty of threats on Diva's side, and then good removal into good threats on the Ramp side of the table here. So we're gonna get to really see a game where both decks get to do their thing and kind of see how those line up against each other.
Big fan of this, honestly. Just let you keep churning through. This is nice. Yeah, Diva's in pretty good spot here.
See, Elvish Reclaimer coming down here, going to go ahead and accelerate Small up to 5 a turn ahead of schedule, which is great.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like Field of the Dead just is not relevant here. Diva's threats are all flying, so again, the Blood Moon type effects or whatever you want, Alpine Moon is just like doesn't seem particularly worth it.
Yep. And now, if you're Diva, I like this sequence here. I expect we'll see Diva just hold up interaction here. Turn 5 is really one of the big turns for the Yarok deck. That's the turn where Yaroks and Cavaliers start happening. And we see Diva in the tank here, not quite sure if they're supposed to stick a threat or if they're supposed to hold up Dispute/Gust.
Yeah, it's an interesting squeeze. I think I'd play like the Protect the Delver strategy here, though. Just like try and chip down. You're at 20. Opponent's going to 14 here.
Okay, and we have and I guess I actually really like this play from Diva, thinking on it a little bit more. The Aether Gust in Diva's hand being able to impact the board means even if the opponent has a payoff and gets to do something this turn, Diva's still in a fine spot because she can interact with the board.
That's definitely valid as well.
I think if Aether Gust had been like a Disdainful Stroke, we'd probably see Diva wait there, but I actually really like the line that she's taken here. Speaking of,
yeah, that's a big one.
I feel like this game is rapidly sliding into garbage time in favor of Diva here.
I agree. She just gets to smash in for 5 here.
Kind of expecting to see the shock fire off here, so the Drake can kill the Grazer. Yep.
You can just shock to the face.
Yep.
And yeah, this is pretty good. And like you mentioned, has just a bunch of counter magic, giant counter magic wall to fight through for the deck that wants to play 5-drop.
Yep, and any of these spells are lethal, right? They're both going to add 2 power to the table, and Small is at 9, so we're going from 7 to 9 here.
I think it's kind of interesting to note, like there's a small thing from these counter spells. It's like your opponent's has your sideboard in front of them. They know you're going to bring a Disdainful Stroke and Aether Gust, so I think actually holding on to like Mystical Dispute, because it's not 100% obvious that's coming in. I think holding on to that is kind of a big deal. It's a small thing, but I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, completely agree. On Small side of the table, I noticed that they've left a Disfigure in the board, which I think is a mistake. Again, I think if you're playing on Small side, this is an all Doomblades on deck matchup. I also don't love that Small has boarded out a Cavalier of Thorns. Like,
yeah, I was going to mention that.
I think if you want to cut 5-drops, and I think cutting 5-drops is fine, I'd much rather cut Yarok, because Cavalier not only has reach, but Yarok gets tagged by 1-mana Mystic Disputes, which is a big deal.
I wonder, and again, you played this deck a ton more than I have. I wonder if it's like right to get Risen Reef out because they have so many shock type effects or things like that, or unsummon even.
Yeah, in fact, we saw an Elvish Rejuvenator in the sideboard for Small, and in my experience playing the Yarok deck, generally, if you want to cut a 3-mana Accelerant, Risen Reef is the one you trim. And I frequently trim Risen Reef in the aggressive matchups.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I thought about that when I looked at the boarding. And, I agree with you on all the Doomblades. I mean, Danielle is only on 12 creatures, so if you can deal with even a quarter of them, that's pretty good.
Yep. And like you don't need to have that many threats in the field of the dead deck because your lands will incidentally be threats later. So you just want to like be dedicated to staying alive as much as possible.
Sure. I mean, both of these hands are pretty fine. I like Danielle's hand more in the matchup, but I mean, you can ask for a lot more.
I think they're both in the range of keepable. I respect the mulligan there from Small. I do think them acknowledging that they need interaction is very reasonable, and I think that them pitching that first hand is fine.
Blast Zone is definitely a good one.
Diva's hand is kind of whatever. Not very excited to be drawing a fifth land there if you're in Diva spot.
Yeah, totally agree with you there.
So Grazer gets to come down, drop a Blast Zone here.
Yeah, Grazer does a lot of work in these matchups for sure.
Expect to see a Forest here probably, so we can cast Maelstrom Pulse. Yep.
All right.
Okay, and Spell Pierce is a great pickup from Diva, so this means I assume we're going to see them wait a turn to stick the Kiln Fiend so that way they can protect it a little bit.
Yeah.
I like
it's
this.
Like really what the doc ordered.
I like this sequence from Small, choosing to lead on the Rejuvenator over Risen Reef because of the potential of shock here.
Yep. Yeah, Diva's probably just going to hold on for these shocks anyways until they can set up for the Fiend. To be honest, Small's hand's not particularly good anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
the acceleration was a big deal, though. It means that this Maelstrom Pulse gets to kill the Kiln Fiend. And I agree that Small's hand is not strong, but Diva's hand is worse.
Yeah, that's definitely a nice pickup there.
So this opt, if you're Diva, is digging for another threat, right?
Yep, Enigma Drake's probably the big one you're looking for. There's a pair of those in her deck post-board. Dreadhorde Arcanist isn't bad either. It's going to get gummed up rather quickly, though, by this Field of the Death that's already in the battlefield.
Yep, and there's the Dreadhorde Arcanist you just mentioned, but like you said, any other land from Small side of the board is going to make 2/2s, and then this Dreadhorde Arcanist has a real hard time attacking in. Although the shocks will help with that a little bit, right?
Yeah, shock plus trample is something, I guess.
Okay, and there's so Small sequencing mistake here on Small side of the table. They should definitely play Drowned Catacomb before playing the Risen Reef, because if they hit a land they already have in play, they want to be able to make zombie tokens.
Just finds another Risen Reef anyways. Yep. Lights that one on fire, which is good.
Interesting that Small elected to put the Psycho land into play, preferring to make an extra zombie as opposed to drawing deeper. I think I might have declined putting that Psycho land into play and used it to draw a card to find more removal.
Yeah. Man, this is a tough turn. Like, you want to attack with this Arcanist because you want to shock the Risen Reef, but like at the same time, you want the instants and sorceries in your bin for the Drake.
Honestly, yeah, the Drake I think makes it an easier decision where you'd rather just sit tight.
Okay, also, actually, the Drake is exile, right? Also.
No, you're thinking of Crackling Drake. Enigma Drake is just graveyard, I think, right?
Okay.
I can't remember. Yeah, the Enigma Drake is just graveyards. This is the older templating. Crackling Drake was from Guild, so it was intended to synergize with the Jumpstart mechanic. Actually, that reminds me, something that a question that was kind of funny. How do you feel about Wizards' insistence to name Magic products and things after in-game mechanics?
I don't think it's very good unless every card's going to have it. Like,
yeah, because like we had this Jumpstart pack, and there's a Jumpstart mechanic, and like calling cards historic is technically a thing. There's a subset of cards that are historic cards, but not historic's a format as well. Definitely.
Like, imagine naming something cycling and then putting Phyrexian Obliterator into it. It's like what? I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll have like a trample set at some point.
Wow. This game's going to be really close. I wonder if Giganta's like you want to put that in. Yeah, it sounds like it's a good start.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see Blast Zone on small side of the table tick up to 3 here and just like trade the Risen Reef in the Blast Zone for the Enigma Drake. Because like you're winning
I
with the
mean,
zombies most likely.
I was saying, I mean, that's the card that's killing you, right? Is the Enigma Drake? Is the potential to kill you eventually down the line here?
Interesting. We're only going to 2, so we're gonna elect to kill the Dreadhorde Arcanist, I guess. I guess they just don't want to give up their Risen Reef here, which is probably fine.
That's a big one. That's going to be tough.
Rejuvenator finds a Castle of Interest here, so in addition to making a couple of zombies, we'll also
Yeah, that's pretty big.
so not blowing up the Blast Zone before blocks here. So maybe we are going to take the Blast Zone to 3, or like holding it to maybe take to 5 to kill the Wellspring that could come down.
Yeah.
We see that shock going upstairs here. Diva just being like, okay, if I'm going to win this game, it's going to involve drawing a bunch of cantrips and killing you.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we're drawing a bunch of lands and not killing much of anyone.
Lots of lands, yeah.
There's a lot of zombies on the other side of the table here. Feels like Diva's pretty up against the wall here at this point.
There's 6 zombies. I mean, I guess she could attack. She could attack with everything here and try and give herself a chance. Next turn.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what sequence Diva could have here to get into this game, and I'm struggling.
So this is, I don't know, it's tough here.
Yeah, so like we're debating like, can we opt into something that turns us into a winning turn? There's 6, 12, they have 15 power on small side of the table.
She needs like Raking Claws plus like.
And even Raking Claw is only like plus 6 damage on this board, right? So it's not quite enough.
Yeah. Play Giganta.
And then at this point, we're just dead to the Blast Zone, right? We crack the Blast Zone, we lose the Dreadhorde Arcanist, we block a zombie, we take 13. So we're dead on board. Well, they just have to make them do it.
I was thinking that she'd attack with the Arcanist and shock one of the zombies. But it's a tight squeeze. I don't know how we're winning from there anyways.
All right. I mean, theoretically, if Diva has like another shock in hand, making them have it here could backfire, but they drew in a Boreal Grazer as a chump blocker. So I think if I'm on small side of the table, I'm definitely in the business of making them have it.
Yeah, I would smash.
Yep. This is that'll do. So a little bit of flood deciding our game there. You know, resource variance is the bread and butter of a lot of games of Magic. It's just how the cookie crumbles a lot of the time.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they were pretty close overall. Again, like you mentioned, a lot of lands. You know, he was only playing 20. I think she had 7 or maybe 8 out total that game. So.
And that's one of those things that's tough to balance too. Like while Diva's land count is low, they're also playing like ops and crash throughs and stuff like that. So they're seeing more cards per game. So a little bit flooded there for sure, but like 20 is not really representative as like 20 in a deck that's not drawing as many cards, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.